Today we're having an interesting video because I am in the market for a new car. My name is Peter and today we're having a look at this XPENG G6, which is a potential candidate for my new car. I'm a family man. I have two kids, 8 and 11 years old, so they have to fit in with all their stuff and all their luggage. And I live in the Netherlands, and all our holidays within Europe we usually do by car. So that means ski holiday, summer holiday, anything in between also needs to fit. So in this video we're going to see if this G6 ticks all the boxes that I want from a family car. Here on the front we start with the design. I think it's not a handsome car, but it's certainly not a bad looking car. This is the Panda white version. There's only 5 colors available. There's white, light gray, dark gray, black and orange, which is the sort of special performance color. Here in this white is not really my kind of taste. I would personally go for the black or the dark gray one because there's a bit too much contrast going on, especially around these light units. The daytime running lights are quite cool, and the indicators are as large as the daytime running lights, so that is actually quite nice. And I think from the front it has quite a tough muscular stance. It's 1.92 m wide, so it's certainly not a slim car, but it looks pretty good on the road this way, I think. The headlight units down here are interesting because you can see that the main beams are quite low. That's the benefit of today's LED headlight technology. It's so good and these lights are so bright that they can be mounted much lower in the car than traditionally was the case, because they can project so much further because of all the light that they produce. So that's actually quite nice. I like that they're down there, but I think this car again in black would sort of mask this a bit better, which is quite nice. Down here we have a little bit of mesh with some cooling behind for the air conditioning unit and of course a little bit of battery cooling, but that is all your openings here on the front in terms of air management. Interesting sort of missing from this picture is maybe an air curtain here that a lot of cars are adopting to sort of regulate the airflow down the car and especially down the front wheel. Not here, not the case, not necessary apparently, because the aerodynamic efficiency is actually quite good on this car. Moving down the side, this car is pretty much as easy as it comes in terms of speccing. There's 5 colors, 3 powertrains and battery combinations, and then there's 2 interiors. And that is all your choices. So everything else on the inside and the outside is standard. Among which these 20-inch wheels with Michelin tires, standard included, that's all you're going to get. If you want something else, you're going to have to get it yourself. You're not going to get it from XPENG. You can have all kinds of feelings about that. I think it is obviously a cost-saving measure because it keeps the production process simple and the supply chain simple besides that. So that keeps the cost down. Fair enough. I think that is probably the way to go into the future. Walking around the car, you can see it's certainly not small. It's 4.75 m long, but standing in front of it, it's also not enormous. I've said it in other videos as well. When cars go over 480, they become, I wouldn't say unmanageable in small spaces, but it gets cumbersome for sure. This is a size that is sort of perfectly on the balance of having a lot of space on the inside, as we'll see in a bit, but still being able to use it in normal day-to-day traffic on the outside. And I think that's a good combination. It's also pretty high. I'm 183 tall, and you can see that the car is pretty much on eye level with me. It's 165 high, again contributing to that big interior space. If we move down the back, you can see the flush door handles. They come out if you want to. If you unlock the car, they pop out automatically. And the same goes for the charging port back here. If I double tap the key fob, then it'll open up. This is a good one, and it's an important one because obviously charging, you want it to be as fast as possible because charging is always a hassle. This car is based on an 800 volt architecture, which means as much as the more volts you get, the faster you can charge and discharge the battery. 800 volts is great. That's something the Germans basically don't do apart from the odd Porsche. Something the Koreans do, Hyundai for example, Kia does it as well, and XPENG then. So this car can charge at 280 kilowatts, which is a lot higher than any of the Germans or the Skodas or the Volkswagens can do, meaning you can charge this 87.5 kilowatt hour battery in about 20 minutes and a bit. So that's fantastic for your fast charging road trips and definitely something that I need to have ticked as well because I go to Germany a lot, I have a German wife, so charging is definitely a thing there and you want to spend as little time charging as possible. With 280 kilowatts, all is well. Then the rear. I quite like the rear actually, I like it more than the front. I really like these huge light signatures again, signifying and accentuating the volume of the car. It's a nice chunky looking car from the rear. A big XPENG logo, G6 Performance, this is the performance version, more on the powertrain options later. And overall, it's a good design. It's nice and clean, and I think it looks quite classy. The third brake light is up here under this little spoiler, and the other brake lights are not here, but they're down here on the side, which is slightly odd. I think they're a bit weirdly low for some reason, because if somebody's really close behind you, they can't see those lights all the time. So that is something I'm not too sure about, but at least they can see the third brake light, obviously. Boot size, obviously important to me because, like I said, most of my holidays within Europe are done by car. 570 liters of space, which is not class leading or anything, I think, but very usable. This is enough for me to fit my holiday, ski holiday, and so on in. And there's even options for a roof rack on the roof, so that is always an option too. But this is very usable, and I think for most cases and most families, more than fine. There is a little bag for your charging cable, but there's also some underfloor storage here. You can see I put the charging cable in there now, and there's some tire pressure kits and so on. So that is also another additional usable space for all your junk. Other than that, the boot is pretty bare. There's a 12-volt socket over there, and there's a subwoofer over here, and that is it. So no tie-down points or anything. It's a bit of a shame. They could have done more. To be honest, I had a lot of tie-down options in my Skoda Superb, the car that I drove previously, and I never really used that. When you use the boot, I just stuff it full. The only things that I would use are like the Velcro things you click onto the bottom to secure things in place when you have a few items in the trunk. So, am I really going to miss it? Don't think so. Should I have included it? Probably yes. Now, I mentioned a few times that there's not much to choose in terms of options, so let's dive into the price list. We start at 43,000 euros here in the Netherlands for this G6 with the rear-wheel drive standard range model. Then you get 435 kilometers WLTP, and you get 190 kilowatts of power. Then you can go up to the rear-wheel drive long range. Then you get the big battery that starts at 48,000. Then you get 570 kilometers of range and 210 kilowatts of power, so a bit more power. And then you also get the faster charging, 210 for the small battery, 280 for this big battery. Then there's this one, the all-wheel drive performance version, so that's four-wheel drive and the big battery. This starts at 52,000. Then you get slightly less range, 550 over 570. But you do get 350 kilowatts of power, so that is quite a lot for this kind of vehicle. Then there's the colors that you can pick. The white is the standard color, comes for free. If you want any of the other colors, they are 800 euros extra. And you can pick a tow bar as an optional extra for another 1,200 euro. And that is all you get to pick. Okay, driving this XPENG G6. Does this fit my family use cases? Well, let's have a look at what we got. We have the all-wheel drive version here with about 470 horsepower. That's quite a lot. And that means this is a fast car, despite its size and despite its weight. This car does 0 to 100 in about 4 seconds. And not too long ago, that was a speed that was only for the most exotic vehicles. And even nowadays, in 2025, that is an acceleration figure that you don't see every day, like apart from other high-performance electric cars. But that said, this is not a sports car by any stretch of the imagination. It's too big, it's too heavy, it weighs 2.1 ton, I think. So add me, my family, and some luggage in the mix, and it's 2.5 ton. So, you know, this is not the car that you're gonna pick for a Swiss mountain road attack, all-out, tire screeching festivity. That's not, you know, simply not the nature of the beast. In any situation, instant torque, instant power, whenever you want to, and this is just in the normal mode. You can see on the screen that we have it in the drive select mode at the moment. So it is a car with the character that you want to give it at any given time while driving. Personally, for the longer drives, I put it in eco, and then everything is relaxed. Your throttle pedal is not so sensitive, your brake pedal is a bit more relaxed, and it's an excellent cruising car, and you can really start to use the range that's available with this battery pack. They say 550 WLTP. I haven't done a full range test, but if you do some simple calculation with about 17 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers on average, that is what you get. And that is just pleasant. And for me, as a person who does a lot of traveling with kids over long distance, that is exactly what you want from a car. I don't need to be driving, you know, 200 everywhere. I just want a relaxed cruiser as well. And here in the Netherlands, we can only do 100 anyway. But when I go to Germany, I will put it in a higher mode, and then I also have that power available. Obviously, we got to do a little cockpit tour here in this G6. It is very black in here, and I'm also dressed in black. There is one other option, which is the light gray option. Then everything becomes light gray. Those are your only two interior choices. I say that on purpose because everything you see here is the one and only option. So there's no options for different navigation or a head-up display or more speakers or different seats. Nothing is optional. All you see here is standard in all G6 models. So again, cost saving, but on the other hand, makes the process of picking one easier as well. I quite like this black version, to be honest. I'm not sure with two boys I will go for the white one. I think if I would pick this car, I would probably go for this black version as well. The theme here is the complete absence of buttons. The only buttons I have are for my window controls, my seat controls, and the two clusters here on the steering wheel. Everything else is done in the central screen that we'll get to in a second. So to do the tour like we usually do, we got window controls right here. No mirror controls. That is again in the screen and with the buttons. These buttons are actually quite nice. We got the two scroll wheels on the right for volume and media controls, so that's okay. And on the left, they are mapped standard to the climate control. So with the wheel, you go up and down in temperature, and with the buttons, you go up and down in fan speed. So that's a nice workaround because all the other climate controls are in the screen. Behind the steering wheel, I have a drive select stalk, so that's nice. No messing around in the screen for that like Tesla does. I quite like this. It's especially handy when you're parking. On the left, I got my wiper settings and controls there, so that is all good too. Any light controls, again, are in the screen, but in all fairness, you probably put that on automatic and leave it there. The steering wheel itself is the wrong shape. I don't understand why we need to reinvent the wheel. Literally, the steering wheel is supposed to be round, and that is all there is to it. This one is rectangular-ish, which I don't like. It's annoying, especially when you're maneuvering or when you're turning with one hand. It is not the correct shape. I don't like this. This should just be a round steering wheel, even though it is rounded around the edges. What I do like is the driver's display that I see through the steering wheel. Super handy, just your basic information. It just really adds something to the driving experience that you don't have to look at the screen for your speed, for example. It's just nice to have this because there's no head-up display option, so all my basic information is there. And I can of course configure this to show whatever I want to show that I don't want to deal with on the screen. So that is excellent. Here on the left, you also see a camera. That is your driver attention sensor or XPENG data collection sensor or some kind of sensor. So all your drowsiness warnings and attention warnings and so on will come from that sensor. And obviously you can turn it all off in the screen as well. To look at the screen, this is the way you want it to be. It is big, but not enormous. This is a size that is still very manageable, and it is fantastic. It is zippy, snappy, it's fast, it does everything you want it to do. All your car settings are here, so you can go completely crazy here with all your settings, sound settings, AI settings, you name it, it is here. So that is fantastic. Here on the bottom you can see some shortcuts. These of course are arrangeable the way you want to. So for example, your temperature is always here, and then you can go to the full menu where you can select your fan direction and so on. This is not the way to go. I think it's a simple knob here on the fan grill would be enough. But yeah, you can have these things configured in such a way that it is easy for you to work with. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, everything is available. So yeah, this is the way you want your infotainment screen to be. If we go below the infotainment screen, you have some ventilation grills and this huge middle console. We got some wireless charging over here with cooling, as you can see. And then we have some relatively small cup holders, but they will hold most coffee cups, with a big storage bin underneath here. You can also see a little bit of the ambient light glow maybe. Super handy, big place here where you can just put your phone for charging, for example, because the USBs are here and the 12-volt socket is here. And you can just, have some stuff out of the way there. There's no glove box, and luckily they have compensated that with a huge storage bin here in the central armrest. Very deep, very big, so that is nice, but there's no charging or anything going on in here. It is lined, however, with felt, and it has a rubber bottom, so not too many things rattling around in there. And you can get all kinds of aftermarket accessories that you can put in here to divide it and to make it layered and so on, to make life a bit easier. All around, it is a good cockpit. Above me, you can see a panoramic roof. Again, standard, no cover. So that is a thing to consider if you live in a very sunny country, but it is tinted. I think it is a 99% UV filtering system or something. I believe them. On the past week, it's been very sunny here in the Netherlands, and I haven't felt cooked in the car. So it does block quite a bit of the sun out. But there's no denying that a glass roof will always let more heat through than a closed roof, obviously. Last but not least is the rear view mirror. The mirror itself is quite small, and the view out is quite small as well, because it is far away to begin with, and it's quite a flat window, so it's a bit of a letterbox shape that you're looking through. Luckily, the side mirrors are quite large, so that is cool. And overall, you have a good overview out. These seats are plenty adjustable, although not as much as you think. So for example, there's no lumbar adjustments, but they are ventilated and heated, so that is nice, and you can easily find a good position here. They are not too supportive, to be honest, so there's no serious bolstering going on, but that does make it comfortable for me, at least to sit in, because usually I am too wide here in my back for seats. Here I am very comfortable. So that's good, and again, these seats are also standard. This is just what you'll get. Overall, I quite like the cabin. There's not that much to complain apart from the steering wheel. The fact that there's no buttons is something I generally don't like. I also don't like that here. But I think the workarounds they've done with the permanent bar and the override here for the buttons for the climate control, it's okay. It's a good effort, even though a button would still be preferred. There's also an 18-speaker sound system in this car, some of which are in the headrest. So for example, your navigation you get through your headrest, which is quite interesting, but it really works. And the speaker system is good too. So you have your thumping bass on while cruising, and all is well. And all around, it's a pleasant place to be. The materials are good, and really the days that we consider Chinese products and Chinese cars as cheap Chinese stuff, those days are long gone. This is easily on par with anything Volkswagen has to offer, and the quality is excellent. So overall, I'm pretty happy in here, and I think for me it ticks most of the boxes that I want from my new family car, apart from the steering wheel maybe, but I can learn to live with that. All around, it is a pleasant place to be, also for longer journeys. And that is, of course, the #1 reason you're going to pick this powertrain, and at the same time the #1 reason you should not pick this powertrain, because it invites you to do stuff that is questionable, let's put it that way. So only order this powertrain if you have enough discipline over your right foot. If we are at cruising speed, it is all well. Like I said, that eco mode makes everything nice and supple. The only downside is that the steering can feel quite artificial at times. It gets so light that it's sort of, you feel completely removed from the experience, which is not that much of an issue if you're just going 100 in a straight line. But when you do have to take some corners, I prefer the heaviest mode that they have, the sport mode, because it just makes you feel slightly more connected to the car. The lighter modes are just too far removed from everything. They feel way too artificial. So that is, in a car with this kind of performance, it is slightly unnerving to be sort of that far away from the tires by feel. Now currently I have all the driver aid systems off, but the XPENG self-driving system is actually quite good. They're pretty proud on the way they train their models and how they offload a lot of the processing to the cloud. And when you keep all the systems on and let the car figure it out, it's actually quite nice, because it can do all the things that legislation allows in terms of cornering, following cars and so on. And at some point, obviously, when the legislation has caught up, the full self-driving experience will be available. And it's actually pretty good. Also with parking, for example, you press 2 buttons and it parks itself thanks to all the sensors and cameras around the car. So it's very nice, and it all works quite seamless together. So as far as I'm concerned, all those boxes are ticked as well in terms of driving. It's comfortable and supple and has the range that I want. And at the same time, with the touch of a button, it has enough performance to make Audis in Germany nervous. So I like that duality of character, that I can pick and choose how I want to deploy the car. So that's quite good, and especially given the space in the back and the ability to cover long distance with this battery pack, I think it's all around pretty nice. Here in the back of the XPENG G6, we have to assess if that fits my children. Now, you're thinking, obviously it will fit children. Correct, but my oldest is 11, and if you take this car on a 5-year lease, for example, then he'll be 16. And since we are tall Dutch people, he's going to be 3.5 meters tall by then and probably weigh 160 kilos. So that has to be taken into consideration. This seat is in my driving position, but it is actually quite further backwards, because as you get in and out, it's a comfort setting that the seat sort of reclines back. So as soon as I would sit and hit the brake pedal, the seat will go forward quite a bit. But even then, you can see there's more than plenty of space for somebody my size at 183 at 90 kilos. So that's good. And all around, it is a nice place to be here. We have the roof, of course, for extra light, and the connection to the front is really good as well, because these seats are quite low. So I'm not looking into the sides of the seat as the rear passenger. So that is actually quite well done. What also adds to the comfort is the amount of space back here. It's a flat floor, and there's so much space for my feet under the seat, next to the seat, in the middle, that it really adds to the comfort. We saw it, for example, in the Porsche Macan, that this center tunnel takes up so much space back here that you can't move your feet around, which is a disaster for people sitting here. There is a complete lack of controls back here, so there's no screen, there's no temperature adjustments or anything. There's just a window switch and a door switch. And here in the middle we have 2 USBs to charge your kids, and simple fan controls here that apparently were impossible to implement in the front, but they are possible to implement here in the rear. And we have some seat pockets for some general storage, and that is all you're going to get. The materials are the same as in the front, so the seats are heated, and they are quite soft and plush, as you can see, very nice and cushioned, so that really adds to the driving comfort. And they are reclinable. You can see maybe the difference here between the side of the bench that is reclined and the side of the bench that isn't. There's a lever here on the side, and you can really sit back and relax. Obviously that is going to eat into your trunk space, but that is what it is. If you want to pack that to the brim, you're going to have to move the seat back upright and sit like this. What is an issue though is when I pull out the armrest in the seats that are reclined, you can see that it is at an angle. So when you put these seats in this position, then this is flat and straight, but in this position it looks a bit funny. So I'm not really sure why nobody noticed that and didn't put an extra hinge in here. You can see that the armrest is completely clean and has the cup holders here in the front, which is the correct way. All those manufacturers that put holes in here or things in the front, you don't want to do that. This is how you want it. It's not complicated. This is the way to go. The fact that this is now, at an angle is a bit annoying, but then again, you're not going to have open cups here that are filled to the brim. So, it's not pretty, and it should not have been like this, but it's also not a disaster, to be honest. That is all we have in the back. I'll sit here in the middle for scale. As you can see here in the middle, I'm also more than comfortable also for a longer journey. It is a bit harder here, and there's not a dedicated full seat like here. So, you don't really want to sit here for too long a period of time, but it is comfortable because I can move my feet around and there's so much space in the length of the car. So pretty good. And all around, it's a pleasant place to be, despite the fact that it's so dark. The fact that the panoramic roof is a non-removable option, that's great, and you really need it with this dark interior, because it does. I can imagine if this wasn't here, it would get really dark and cramped back here. But like this, it's nice. It's airy enough. The view from the front is great. I can see what's going on. So yeah, all around, this is a pretty good back of a car. Point of criticism is the fact that this car has steel springs and steel springs only. If you look at the Volkswagen Group, for example, you can get the dynamic chassis control, where you can have the car harder or softer as you see fit, which also invites to a bit more sporty driving on occasion. Not the case here. You're stuck with the settings as they come from the factory, and that is all you're gonna get. It's not an issue for me because I don't need this to be a sports car, but it is nice to at least have the straight line performance with all that power to drive comfortably, because I've said it in previous videos as well, having more horsepower is not a necessity, but it does make driving easier because you just have more options in terms of overtaking, merging, getting out of situations. It's just nicer to have power in reserve. But that said, this car can very much do with 150 horsepower less without any issues. That was impressive. Now, let's find out if this is going to be the car for me. I think this car has a lot going for it. Size-wise, it fits exactly what I need. Power-wise and dynamics-wise as well, despite the fact that the steering can be a bit artificial if you put it in the lightest setting. And overall, the technology pack, the platform, the capabilities, the range and the battery technology, all those boxes are ticked. So it would almost be an easy decision and say this is the one to go for, let's call it a day. That's not the case though. I want to drive a few different cars like the Skoda Elroq, the Skoda Enyaq, maybe even something from BMW, and potentially a few other rivals from Asia, like for example the Ioniq 5. We drove the 5N already in the previous video, but that was a bit extreme. So there's a few other cars I want to drive, but this is a very serious contender that is, as far as I'm concerned, top of the list at the moment. This one as it stands here on the road is about 54,000 euro, but you can start a lot cheaper. If I would go for this one, I would go for the performance version because I like to have that dual personality of lots of range and lots of power when you want and need it. So that is also exactly in the budget that I'm shopping for. And I think the platform and the technology and the overall package that this car offers for that money is extremely compelling. That's all I got for you in this video. Thanks for watching. Give it a thumbs up if you like this. There's more videos coming where I assess cars, seeing if they are for me and if they are going to be my next vehicle. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of those updates. For now, thanks for watching and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.